Spoilers for Avengers Endgame, though the Russos have said that because it's now 2 weeks since the movie has been out, people can be more free to kind of, spoil some of the key elements in the movie, which I think is fair enough.
Give it 2 weekends. Not everybody can get there the first weekend, but I think if you haven't seen it yet, you should get out there and see it, because I think by Monday people are going to be talking about it.
And of course, the reason I say this is because in this latest Spider-Man Far From Home trailer, it's got a couple of massive Endgame reveals. So what we're going to be doing is going through some of the Easter eggs, the references relating to the characters, the timeline, Peter Parker's suits, what's the deal with Mysterio, the multiverse, a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm doing this a bit differently this time. I've got a list of things that I'm going to go through that I'm going to follow as the trailer progresses. A bit more kind of off the top of the dome, but there's a whole bunch of key things that I really want to touch upon. And you know what? A like and subscribe always bloody helps a video. It actually does. I kind of started doing it ironically, and it turns out that, hey, it helps in a very big way. So, you don't have to, but, come on. Okay, so straight up we see the kind of impact that Tony Stark's death has had on the world. There's a bunch of art pieces that memorialize him during this trailer, including some graffiti here. Later there's some art at Peter Parker's school. So it seems like what he did with Thanos' invasion was made public. The world knew that he was the one responsible, or largely responsible, for keeping those forces at bay. And people love him for it, even though he was an arms dealer for many years. Killed a lot of people probably. Well, not probably, he did. Okay, Happy Hogan gets a lot of play in this trailer, which is good. It's a nice tie back to the original Iron Man. Jon Favreau returning. Of course, he directed the first Iron Man. Everybody knows this. What am I doing? He's also acting as kind of a mentor figure to Peter Parker, which is good to see. It's always great when Jon Favreau pops up in something as Happy Hogan. And as for the timeline of when this starts, John Watts, the director, has said it's pretty much straight after Endgame. He didn't give an exact date of when that is. I think maybe because of the whole timeline mess up of the last Spider-Man movie. But yeah, it's pretty much straight after Endgame. Right, so we get Spider-Man beating up some thugs. The director was actually asked, are these thugs like the Kingpin's people or anybody else? And he didn't verify exactly. They might just be generic thugs. But I'd love it if they belong to like a lower level crime boss, like a Hammerhead or someone like that. It fleshes out the universe a bit more. And they're never going to do a Hammerhead movie, are they? So why not just, chuck that in? Afterwards, when he beats them all up in the Iron Spider suit, it's kind of cheating, isn't it? I mean, he's got spider powers. That's cheating in itself. But yeah, I tried to get a good look at the name tag on this officer. Normally when they go out of their way to give someone a name in a movie, it's a reference to like a comic book creator or somebody who worked on the movie or a minor character from the comics. I can't actually make this out. I got a really high-res version of this trailer sent over from Sony. And even then, can't say who this is. If you can make that out, that'd be great. Leave it below. We got a bit of this in the last trailer behind Peter Parker. That is Stark Tower, which became Avengers Tower, which became, well, we don't actually know yet, under renovation. There's a very real possibility that because this movie is set in 2023, that it was largely unused. But as we saw from Far From Home, they moved the Avengers headquarters. So maybe it just wasn't kept up for those 5 years. But speaking of the time jump, a lot of people have had questions relating to what's the deal with the students at Peter Parker's school? Why are people like Ned Leeds and Flash, why are they still there? Well, basically the answer is half the world's population was snapped and half weren't. So half of Peter Parker's class grew up those 5 years, so they'd be 20-ish in the current timeline in 2023, and the other half only just returned. So his new class basically consists of students who are 5 years younger than him, who are now the same age as him, and all the people who were originally snapped. Right, so here we get he's rejecting a call from Nick Fury. It seems like a lot of the superheroes that he would normally rely on are retired or off-world or dead, which is why he's turning to Spider-Man. Though I'd imagine him just coming recently back from space and also coming back to life. He just kind of wants to get on with things. Well, that's the indication you get from the trailer. He just wants to go on a nice, friendly holiday, leaving his Iron Spider suit behind. There's another trailer where we see he only packs one of his earlier Spider-Man suits. I mean, you can't really take the Iron Spider suit, on an international flight. But yeah, interesting little Easter egg in this scene, because behind Happy Hogan here, we see a sign that has Crusher Hogan on it and win $100. This facility might actually be a wrestling arena, because you probably remember, but in the original Spider-Man movie from 2002, Spider-Man fights Crusher Hogan to test out his new abilities and for money. It's also in the original comic, so that's a nice callback to that character and also the origin of Peter Parker. Obviously, they've gone a little different here. In terms of the origin of his powers, they skipped over all of that, thank God. Maybe this is a callback, or maybe he's going to do some wrestling, I don't know. Again, it seems kind of unfair if he's wrestling in an Iron Spider costume. MJ's back. Obviously, she was also snapped. It looks like she is Mary Jane Watson, because they threw that in at the end of the last Spider-Man movie. I don't understand why they hid it and then had that reveal at the end. That was one of the elements of that story that I didn't really like. It's not really a twist to be like, oh look, it's Mary Jane. Although she's not called Mary Jane. She's called Michelle something. I can't remember. But yeah, I do like this take on the character. And I think I remember in an interview Kevin Feige saying something like, it's not confirmed that she is actually the MJ from the comics, so that remains to be seen. Flash getting punched in the balls, good stuff. Right, this we saw in the last trailer as well. Nick Fury trank darting Ned Leeds and then approaching Spider-Man for a job. Now what's apparently interesting about this particular Nick Fury is him and Maria Hill have been out of the game for 5 years, and basically he's playing catch up. He's the guy who knows everything, generally. He knows what's going on an intergalactic scale, and now coming back half a decade later, he's been thrown this curveball in terms of the weird and broken state of the universe. And of course, because Tony Stark is gone, he can't lean on him. Also, S.H.I.E.L.D. seems like the kind of organization where you get somebody young and then you train him up. You kind of indoctrinate him into the system, you make him an agent and things like that. Feels kind of shady. Right, Quentin Blake. This is really interesting. So Mysterio, first of all, we've seen this before, but the costume is amazing. It's garish and comic accurate. It's ridiculous. I love it. They've really pulled it off. Now it says here, and this is really interesting, that Quentin is from Earth, just not ours. They say that a snap tore a hole in our dimension. Now John Watts has also gone out and said they haven't specified which snap that is. So it could have been when Thanos snapped everybody out of existence. Could have been when the stones were destroyed. It could have been when Hulk brought everybody back. Could have been when Iron Man destroyed Thanos and his whole army. We don't know, but that's apparently going to be answered in the movie. I'd imagine to be more one of the recent ones, but yeah, we'll see. There's also a line confirming, or at least hinting at, the multiverse. Now, the multiverse was also confirmed in Avengers Endgame. I've got a video on the timeline and time travel associated with that movie that I'll link below if you want to check that out. Kind of breaks it down. It's still up in the air in terms of certain elements of how it works. The directors of Endgame say that Captain America went and lived in an alternate timeline with Peggy Carter and then jumped back when he was old, though the writers said it's only removing an Infinity Stone which causes a branching timeline. Anyway, regardless, what they're saying in this movie is the multiverse very much exists, which is something from way back in the Marvel Comics. Parallel branching realities, a lot of them very similar, a lot of them very different. Of course, people are most familiar with this from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And when you bring in the multiverse, you do leave the door open for characters like Miles Morales, because when that character was first introduced, he comes from another reality, the Ultimate Universe, where Peter Parker was killed and he picks up the mantle. That being said, in Spider-Man Homecoming, Donald Glover's character is the uncle of Miles Morales, so he could just very well exist in this universe regardless. Anyway, the snap tearing a hole in the dimension apparently brought Mysterio over. Now, a lot of people have been saying this, and this is my first reaction, that this is a lie. He's not from an alternate dimension. The monsters, the elementals that are attacking, he is very much responsible for that, and he's making himself out to be this hero. But at the same time, first of all, yeah, I think he's the villain. He's the villain of this movie. He's kind of acting as Peter Parker's new mentor because, he needs that. But I think there's a possibility that he is creating the elementals and he is from the other dimension. Because the tech that he's got on him doesn't look like something that's stolen from the Chitauri or anything like that. And the world being 5 years on, things didn't really seem to advance that much. I mean, New York was run down. People are still playing Fortnite. It's still popular in 2023. I mean, who am I kidding? It probably still will be. But yeah, I think it's still a real possibility that he is from another dimension. That being said, this dude is a notorious liar and trickster and illusionist. So yeah, I would be shocked if it turns out that he wasn't the bad guy in this movie. But also 5 years on Earth after the snap, based on the technology that's come before him, is probably enough time for him to build something like this. So yeah, I think he's a liar. I'm just not sure about what the things specifically he's lying about are. They mention some other Avengers here that Peter Parker wants to help. Thor, he's off-world. Captain Marvel is unavailable, presumably also off-world. And there's, of course, the line that everybody loves. Bitch, please, you've been to space. Which, yeah, he has been. But yeah, whatever's going on, it seems that Nick Fury feels that Spider-Man is more than capable of taking care of it. Which is probably true, because he'll win, because it's his movie. Right, I want to talk about some suits. Again, he kicks things off in the Iron Spider. I believe he leaves that behind. It's kind of a cheat code suit. He takes the regular suit, and then S.H.I.E.L.D. give him a new one, a stealth one. I think maybe the reason they're doing this is they need him to do a stealth mission. And if he wears the bright red and blue, he's going to stick out quite a bit. And then what I think's going on here is Tony Stark has left him a new suit, the one that we see, the black and red one, with the wings. So I think this is Peter Parker kind of going through the ins and outs of it and how it works. And Happy Hogan's the one probably to introduce him to this. So yeah, the new suit in this movie, I think, is directly from Tony Stark. Something he designed in the hope that Peter Parker would return one day, or another Spider-Man would appear and he can hand it over. But yeah, I like the inclusion of the wings. It's a nice throwback to like the original comics or early comics. Also, this jet that explodes, I think it's the same jet that he gets the suit from. I believe. I don't know a lot, but who does? Maybe you. What we've got here also is what very much looks like a pair of Tony Stark glasses. They look very similar to the ones he had, well, in a few movies, Civil War, Infinity War. I think they might actually do something, have some kind of heads-up display going on. Again, they're probably a hand-me-down from Tony Stark, or he just takes them, who knows. Okay, there's one more thing I want to talk about, and that is the villains. It's been confirmed that Michael Keaton will not be in this movie, nor will Liz, who was his love interest from the last movie. But there's no word yet on Scorpion, who of course showed up in the last one. But what I think these movies are building towards, which I'm sure everyone is thinking, is the Sinister Six. So he's making a few villains on the way. So far we got Vulture, Mysterio, Scorpion. There's a few other minor characters, that could very well show up. The Tinkerer and such. But yeah, that's where I think all this is absolutely going. But I throw the question to you. What else in this trailer? What did I miss? A bunch of stuff, no doubt. How do you feel about this movie? I think it looks great. It seems like they've thrown a lot more money into it than the last one. And of course, coming off Endgame, there's a chance that this is going to make $1 billion easy, because Iron Man 3 was the first movie to come out after the first Avengers, and that kind of reaped the rewards of that movie. I think it made more money than it should have, quite frankly. But yeah, apparently this is going to address the world post the unsnap of how people are affected, whether people were just brought back to life in the middle of the sky if they were snapped in an airplane, or maybe even if people remarried, or they got a new dog and then their old dog comes back, then they got 2 dogs. Imagine having 2 dogs. What a bloody nightmare, mate. But yeah, any thoughts you have, I'd love to know. Also, there's videos here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. There's one tomorrow, I believe. I think I'm going to release it tomorrow. That's on the future of the MCU, how certain characters can be brought back, what we're going to be seeing in the near future. And also I have a podcast called The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That comes out every Monday morning. We've got a recent one on Avengers Endgame, and again on the future of the MCU. That was the last one last Monday. I'll link it below if you want to check it out. But yeah, regardless, thank you for watching this video. Have a great rest of the week. Take care.